Charlie, what do you think about the third parties and the movement for People's Party? And we could talk about it at the national level, but more importantly, I want you to talk about at the local level. What did our revolutions, the working parties people, how did they help you in your mayor's race, or how did they help in general? I want to get your experience with that.
Yeah, this is an issue where it really, really gets to the system of elections and, what makes the most sense to do. So I am a firm believer that the two-party system is the root of so much of our problems in this country. When I was running, I like to say that the only thing worse than the two-party system is the one-party system, and that's what we have here in New Brunswick. And so I was proud to challenge from outside the two-party structure. But I also recognize that there's times and moments and systems where it makes sense to run within the party structure. And so I certainly don't fault anybody who chooses to run in the Democratic Party. But I do feel that, we need a systemic change. So things like ranked choice voting can help with that. Mm-hmm. Also, just the rules in general in New Jersey are very opposed to third parties. The Republicans and the Democrats get to decide all the rules. They get automatic favorable placement on the ballots. Yep. They get to have these party primary elections where the government pays to decide who who's going to be the nominees of those folks. And if you decide to register as a Green or a socialist, you essentially lose the right to vote in the primary. You no longer have influence over who the Democratic Party is going to pick, and you're essentially sidelining yourself from running or voting in those elections, which in urban areas and in just blue areas in general, you're basically giving up your chance to pick who your representative is going to be. Mm-hmm. So I definitely think we need systemic change. I think we need to treat independents and third parties as equal players in the field. So just the way the elections run, once you see behind the scenes, everything is Republicans and Democrats, and they decide the rules. They're there. They say we have checks and balances. We have a Republican and a Democrat. Yeah. Well, that's great, except that half the people in New Jersey are not either. So those folks aren't adequately represented. I think we need better systems to do that. I think ranked choice is one way. I think building up these third parties is great, but in New Jersey at least, it seems like it's like trying to build a sandcastle right next to the ocean. It's just whatever progress you make seems to get washed away.
So do you think that for example, the movement for People's Party, we have DSA already doing what I'm about to say, having build your brand within and then run within the Democratic Party. That's what DSA does right now. Is we know who they are, the Democratic Socialists of America, but then they run their candidates as Democrats. You think that's probably the best way to get through the primaries and then get into power?
Certainly in New Jersey, it's one of the only paths forward for that kind of thing. I know New York has very different ballot laws. So, for instance, they have working families in New York is an actual party with an actual line on the ballot where they can run their own candidate or they can endorse the Democrat and have the Democrat appear twice on the ballot. And people want to voice their support for working families, they can vote for the same candidate on that other line and get that message across to the powers that be. In New Jersey, Working Families is just a nonprofit advocacy organization, and they don't have the institutional mechanisms that are available there in New York because we don't have that system. That system's called fusion voting, where different parties can endorse the same candidate and appear on the ballot. So and I know in New York, they've been in the middle of the pandemic, they've been trying to undo those rights and undo those rules to make it harder for working families and other people to continue to do this. But in New Jersey, the system is already way rigged against anything like that. So it's a much more difficult thing. But yeah, I do agree that building a brand and building a movement that's independent is important. But there's nothing wrong with running in the Democratic Party. In fact, in New Jersey, it's one of the only ways to have success.
So let's talk about the organizations and how they help you, and how much experience do you know? How powerful or how well known are they? So let's go down the line. Our Revolution. Do you know the head of the New Jersey branch or whatever? Tell me what you think.
Yeah, so I was honored to get the endorsement of our revolution.
Okay, awesome.
I have strong ties to the Rutgers Progressive Group, which
Awesome.
is also Our Revolution. Rutgers is their other name, and so they've been very supportive. I worked closely with them for years, and a lot of those folks helped with my campaign, and so was honored to get their endorsement. And on a practical level, the main thing they helped with was they allowed us to use their texting platform, so we were able to send thousands of texts to voters, and it was really, really helpful. And we just would not have been able to afford that software if it wasn't for their generosity. So they definitely came through and helped big time.
Nice. Working Families Party.
So yeah, the Working Families Alliance here in New Jersey is a great organization, and I would have loved to get their endorsement. I definitely was pushing for it. I did not. They, but I did feel we had a lot of synergy. So, like for example, I made one of the points in my campaign to, fight for 15 and practice what I preach, and actually say, okay, we've got crossing guards who are getting paid less than $15 an hour. If I'm elected, they'll all get a raise to $15 an hour at least, and all the other, city employees paid by the city are going to actually make this, this wage that we're saying everyone deserves. Meanwhile, my opponent supported the fight for 15, but didn't do anything about these people he's paying less than 15 an hour for. I know Working Families was pushing him, and so we sort of were both pushing him to do better and be better. But for whatever reason, they did not make an endorsement one way or the other. But I definitely pushed them to take more of a stand, because those crossing guards deserved a raise, and we got them a raise during the campaign.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah,
See,
we had an event on Labor Day. We announced, hey, here's my plan. Here's exactly how we're going to get everybody to 15 or more. And just 48 hours later, 2 days later, the governor of New Jersey came 500 feet away from where I stood and made that announcement, and stood with the mayor and endorsed the fight for 15. And Working Families was there. It was a big crowd and everything. And so, they were kind of following my lead on that particular issue. And I was happy to help. I would have liked to get Working Families endorsement, but at the end of the day, we were all pushing in the same direction. And ultimately we got the crossing guards a raise. So that was a good thing.
This is the thing. This is what I'm talking about. We want progressives to run, even though sometimes we don't win. And unfortunately, in Charlie's case, he didn't become mayor, but we're able to push the Overton window to the left. Just if we're inching in that direction, it's totally worth it. I'm sure those crossing guards and the other public employees were very happy that you ran that and gave them a raise, pretty much. And I want this show to be about and basically trying to get as many normal people to get in the fight. We're on Twitter, we got our Twitter fingers, and that's fine, but we need people to volunteer, pick up the phone, give $1 here, give $1 there, and we can definitely make a difference in a small way. And when we all do it, it grows into a big snowball effect.